bottles, and I'll go get the gun. The baby's inside and asleep, and before you know it, we'll be running out of sun. And one by one, we will blow them away. And one by one, we will show them who's boss today.
So you're playing out again April 11th?
April 11th, yeah. Muddy Waters.
How do you feel about the open mic series here?
Open mic series?
Yeah, how do you feel about playing at open mic night?
Well, it's nice. I actually don't do it often, but especially I'm sort of back and forth. I imagine we'll talk about later, but I'm sort of not in the country a lot, and so what happens is when I get back after being months away, like I feel I'm not used to I'm not ready to just sort of do a show in front of an actual audience and all of these things. So open mics are nice because it gives me that sort of experience, that feedback, that live sort of feel, and you know, open mics are fun. It's just Portland's got some great open mics too.
Do you have favorite open mics? Like what kind of open mics do you?
I do actually. My favorite one, the one I do go fairly regularly to, meaning maybe once a month or so, is White Eagle's open mic on Sunday nights.
Okay.
John Vecchiarelli is the guy that runs that. Really neat guy and great open mic, yeah. And so I've been to a few others that are great. I just don't go to them very often, like Alberta Street Pub and Airplay has a couple things going on right now. Airplay Cafe.
Airplay. I've heard
Yeah.
that's kind of a new one, like the last year or something.
Yeah, neat place, neat, great sound system, great stage. that
Where is
and lots of
Airplay? I've
music.
never even heard of Airplay.
It's on. I think it's 7th and Burnside, east side of the river.
It's a guy that works down at the Guitar Center we go to. Him and his wife put it together.
Oh, see, now I like that Guitar
Okay.
Center.
Yeah.
Those are good
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
they
they
just
should
have,
sponsor the show.
I don't even know how it's sustainable what they're doing over there. They have shows all the time. They have like 4 or 5 shows a day.
Wow.
Literally. Like, because
Wow.
they have morning stuff, they have lunch stuff, they have 2 concerts at night often. Yeah, there's good. I'm on their newsletter, and so I just keep getting stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, wow, how can you do that? But
Hi, everybody. This is you are listening. You have downloaded, in case you thought this was car talk. This is actually Acoustic Conversations, and my name is Pete Wright. I'm sitting here with lovely Kurt Sifford.
I'm lovely now.
You are.
Let's back that up. Let's find a different adjective here.
I'm going to stick with lovely for
Manly?
tonight.
How about manly? I mean, we're going to have to just go bold and
Man
cancel
up,
that
dear.
one out.
Man up, dear. Kurt, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well.
I just love doing these shows over here because I don't have to do all the setup. So thanks for doing that. And our guest this evening is Dustin Pattison. Dustin, we saw you, the first time we saw you was at the Songwriter Showcase. It was, that one in particular, yeah, it was pretty good. These open mic things,
Right.
They're hit or miss.
It's really interesting, like how you go, and sometimes you go into an open mic night and it'll just be so dead. You know, it seems like there's no one there at first, and you almost wonder if you're going to be suffering through it and everything. But you know, I knew that Dan Lowe would be playing,
Right.
and I enjoy his stuff.
We like Dan Lowe.
And I knew that another familiar face or two is going to be showing up, and then Dustin gets up on stage.
Yeah, no, it really, I mean, can't underscore this enough because you weren't even going to play. So, I mean, we were just there.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah. That's very nice. Kudos.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Later, you can tell me something you like about me.
Okay.
No, I mean,
I'm disappointed you didn't.
That's what I like to hear. There you go.
Right.
No, so I mean, you know, after the first few, well, I'm going to tell you my experience. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the story. So we were there, we were watching, and the first guy got up and sang. Don't know his name. He put on a great effort. He had some good riffs, and then he sat down, and I guess it was his wife who went to sleep on his lap, and her mother was there. I'm thinking, and and I happened to get a picture, and I apologize because I got a picture. I was taking a picture of somebody on stage. Maybe it was you, Kurt, but it was not a flattering picture of the audience.
And not a picture I'd want to put on my website.
No, this would not be a promotional picture for you. I mean, it was just not, and so that set the tone with the sleeping on the lap of one of the performers. I mean, it just set the tone for an evening that I thought was going to be a write-off. You know, we go and we scout these open mics to try and find some neat artists. And then Dustin gets up and proceeds to kick me in the jaw with this first song that he did. And he even asks, he gets this, I mean, listen to, you hear him, and he's got such, I mean, you know, not to diminish your manhood and that incredible beard,
I have no.
but he has a very sweet voice.
Thank you.
This Dustin, incredibly sweet voice. And the first thing he says is, "Should I do what was it? Should I do a kind of happy song or kind of sad song first?" And I guess it was your wife who screamed out. Screamed out, I think, the sad song.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my sister-in-law. But
that was your sister-in-law?
Yeah,
Oh.
my wife wasn't there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who screamed out, "You should do the sad song," and that was when the jaw kicking happened. But it absolutely blew me away.
Wow.
I don't know. I am really looking forward to hearing some of where your songs come from.
Okay, yeah.
And thank you for joining us. I wonder if you would kick it off with a song.
Yeah, definitely. You want me to go ahead and kick it
Yeah,
off
why
with
don't
the
you
same sad
kick it
song,
off with the jaw kicking song?
Okay.
Just tell us what it's called, and you can tell us all about it later.
Okay, the song is called Peace with God. Lost the last bit of my innocence when I was only 30 years. It cost me $93.60, price of a shotgun and a beer. She didn't want my house or my picket fence. Those weren't the words I longed to hear. So I shot her in her living room and buried her in her backyard. Then it was straight to the priest I went, where I made my peace with God. About 10 years back I saw the president. He was speaking about the war. And what he said was really making sense. He said, "What are you waiting for?" Well, thanks to the Department of my mama would be poor no more. So I shot them bastards one by one, and after one it's not that hard. Well, then back home straight to the priest I went, where I made my peace with God. Friday night and Daddy's drunk again. It's nothing new, but worse this time. You'd never guess that I was only 10. The way I stared straight in his eyes. Well, Mama assured me it was just self-defense. when I pulled that trigger tight. We watched him dying in our living room and buried him in our backyard. Well, then it was straight to the priest we went, where we made our peace with God. Then it was straight to the priest we went, where we made our peace with God.
You know, it's funny. I've always kind of considered myself a good barometer on knowing whether a tune is really good or not, based off of if I actually pay attention to the lyrics. I almost never pay attention to lyrics to a song, you know, like on a first or second listen. And that one just, the story of that one just sucks me right in. And where does that story come from?
It's going to be a fairly disappointing answer because I don't really know where this comes from. The thing with songwriting for me has just been sort of a desire to tell stories. I think that there's not just, there's definitely in this song there are truths that I connect with. I'll sort of be vague like that, but yeah, definitely not autobiographical by any sense. But I don't know. I mean, I guess when I sat down and wrote this song, it was really just a desire to, well, and it's kind of funny because I just figured, okay, I've been writing music for I don't 8 to 10 years or something like that, and nothing serious, of course, but I just decided that if I'm going to be a songwriter and I'm going to write sort of pseudo folk music, I should have a murder ballad. And so this was my murder ballad, and as happens with a lot of the stuff I write, I'll often just sort of write a few lines and just sort of in my head I'll sort of see, I guess, its trajectory and just sort of run with it, and so that's kind of, I guess, so the song itself is I picture, and a lot of this song is, a lot of people don't get this. I think a lot of the people who do pay attention to the lyrics get it, but people who are maybe, I don't know, sort of back and forth with paying attention, or and not will not get sort of, well, first of all, that this is a person that I'm talking about, like the same person in all three verses is talking here. A lot of people will ask me, is that, you know, are those all the same person? And it gets confusing because what I do in this song is I sort of go backwards.
Right. Yeah.
And I sort of I kind of wanted to play around with that idea that, you know, sort of starting in my mind, I picture this man who's maybe sitting in his jail cell, sort of explaining how he got where he is, you know, and sort of saying, like, I lost the last bit of my innocence at 30 years. You know, at 20 years, I went into the military, and I sort of, you know, I don't know, maybe sort of lost a lot of my soul there in the war, and through sort of, you know, all of the violence and killing there, and then, but then even going back to sort of in the last verse, the 10-year mark in this person's life, and sort of what I hope sort of explains a lot.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of this violent father and sort of,
it definitely comes through that way. I mean, the thing that I like about especially the music part of it is that, I mean, the music's got a little bit of peace to it, and so it kind of brings a compassion, like, you know, not necessarily to the man himself, but at least to the societal realities that kind of led to that. And
I'm curious, when did you write this?
Probably about 3 years ago. I'm picturing where I wrote it, and it's in our current place, so it's probably
in Portland.
Yeah, probably 2.5, 3 years ago.
It's fascinating to think back 3 years ago. I mean, what was going on sort of socioculturally, and how these influenced sort of drive that song. Was it a difficult song to write?
Well, it was in a way. This kind of song, it's such a departure from a lot of the other stuff that I'd written, that it was difficult in that, and I'm the kind of person who I hold back often, in everything I do, I guess, and so to go so far with a song like this was a bit of a challenge for me, and to really create this character who just was really sort of, messed up,
committed,
to say the least.
That's committed
Yeah,
on many levels.
yeah.
I honestly, I'm not quite sure how to ask this question, but it's in my head. It's sort of framed in how does it feel to play this song to your mother? Does that make sense? I mean, is it ever difficult to? Get this out?
I don't. I guess I have played it in front of my mother, but it's what's funny about that is
she's one of the people who never pays attention to lyrics.
Maybe I hoped so when I wrote this, but no. What's funny about that actually is that I wrote this and I put it up on, maybe it was my MySpace or somewhere, and there was a little bit of a concern for me. I was like, oh, what are my parents going to think when they hear this? I mean, because again, yeah, like you said, it's kind of demented. It's it's definitely violent, but it's their favorite song of mine. So, or at least it was. At one point she told me it was. So that was a nice surprise, I guess.
Oh, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
How does this fit in with the rest of kind of the trajectory of your music? And I know we'll play some more. You'll play some more for us, and hopefully get a flavor of this. But you write about many sort of dark themes, but they're mostly not dark themes in terms of exercising some personal demons. I almost hesitate to say they're kind of an activist bent, but you are also very active and tend to be very a political person. We'll talk a little bit more about that. How does that sort of sense of activism play into your songwriting?
And I guess this is where I was going earlier too, about sort of what I set out to do when I write a song. And let me even preface it too that I think one of the advantages I have as a songwriter, in sort of comparison to maybe a lot of other singers and songwriters, I don't have a terribly large amount of ambition when it comes to my music, because it's something I'm starting to get more serious about. But up to this point, it's really been sort of this thing I've played at, and I just really enjoy doing it a lot. It's sort of a release for me in a lot of ways, and it's not something I've ever sort of seen as sort of a potential career for myself or anything. And so I've never felt the need to write songs that sell, that fit into a certain type of genre, that that kind of thing. I've also never felt like I need to have some sort of rounded repertoire, that kind of. But I would then say that the songs that I write, I think what I try to do is either tell a story or imply or hint at a story. And I think every one of my songs probably fits into one of those two categories. And I think that the songs that have more of the activist bent are ones that I would say imply or hint at a story. And in my mind, it's sort of, you've got sort of the dominant story. The story that sort of, I guess, dominant society and culture wants us all to fit in as, they want us to be, the consumer of things, consumer of their ideas, their expertise, all of those things. And so I think what I try to write about is the other story. Or maybe the consequences of that story, that first story, that dominant story. Anyway, I know that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It does in my mind, but I guess I want to point the listener to this other story.
Sort of make apparent something that is under the surface, something that may not be.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm also I also know that a lot of times I'm preaching to the choir. I know that I'm not telling a new story by any means. That this is a story that's as old as time, and that I guess these conflicting stories, sort of the dominant and the subversive stories, have always sort of been in conflict with each other, and I'm just sort of taking my part, in that whole process. But
maybe you could do another song and show us what you mean.
yeah. So I'll play this song. It's called "No It Don't." This is definitely one of my more political songs. So your papa went and got you into an Ivy League. That don't mean that you know anything. So your mama went and bought you some studio time. That don't mean that you know how to sing. You can build yourself a great big castle. That don't make you my king. No, it don't. 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 No, no, it don't. See, you're looking so good in your suit and your tie. That don't make my mind more at ease. With your hand on the button and your eyes on the prize. Who needs friends when you've got guns like these? You can blow the whole world to kingdom come, but that don't make you no Prince of Peace. No, it don't. 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 No, no, it don't. So you lent a few cents to some poor families. After all, we've all got to eat. But now they're up to their necks for the next century, in a debt that won't let them be free. You can change its name, claim it's charity. That don't make you less of a thief. No, it don't. 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 No, no, it don't. Yeah, your biceps look nice up on that movie screen, but that don't make you the man for me. Yeah, your face, it gets pasted on the magazines. That don't mean that you got what we need. You can charm us and promise the sweetest things. That don't mean that your love is for free. No, it don't. 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 No, no, it don't. You've got 15,000 channels on your flat screen TVs. That's one hell of a satellite feed. We can distance our conscience from our digital deeds at one hell of a satellite speed. But just because the images cease to make us fuss, well, that don't mean that the wounds cease to bleed. No, it don't. 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 No, no, it don't. We're surrounded by actors and advertisements, standing by with expert advice. So-called leaders go and lead us into wars without end. It's a wonder we're all still alive. And they can build themselves some great big prisons. That don't mean they can lock up our minds. No, it don't. 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 No, no, it don't. No, it don't. No, it don't. No, no, it don't.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Where'd that one come from?
You know, that one, it's actually my most recent song. And that was written over, that was also my, as far as time it takes to write each song, that one took the absolute longest. But only because each of those stanzas, I mean, if it seems to the listener that they're just sort of a series of maybe even they don't form necessarily a real cohesive piece, I don't think. But
Suddenly you've just written
kind of this,
End of the World as we know it,
yeah,
you know, just this stream of consciousness.
Yeah, and it was just sort of a series of kind of like these, you know, few line rants, and that I just sort of pieced together. And it was actually I was living in Malawi, Africa, over the last 7 months, and I'm there often, and I don't often write music there. And it's this kind of this weird phenomena that I don't really know how to explain, that I can't write music there when I'm there.
Do you take your guitar?
There is a guitar there. And I do play every once in a while. And a lot of it comes down to the fact that I'm just so busy when I'm there too. But yeah, again, I know that there's something psychological going on there too. But this was the exception. This was again just sort of sitting down, coming up with a stanza at a time, and over the 7 months, I finally had sort of these 6 different stanzas that I pieced together. And I guess the way I often explain it is that it also doesn't necessarily feel done to me, and so there might be more, in the future. It might just keep getting longer and longer and longer until everybody's
until
asleep
suddenly that
and-
song is a Fish concert.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
I'm interested in, and you will likely have to preface this with what you do when you are in Malawi, Africa, for 7 months. I know we will talk about your nonprofit in a bit, but I'm very interested in how your experience living in Africa, in particular, sort of frames your worldview and sort of. I mean, you say you don't write over there, but man, you got to be getting something out of living over there, and how that affects your music.
definitely. And in fact, often when I'm talking to somebody and I mention that I can't write there. There's also there are a lot of other activities, like I do a lot of reading when I'm there, but it's a different kind of reading even. And so like the kinds of reading that I do here are, I do all, I love reading, and I sort of do the whole gamut, but I enjoy ones that are sort of that will stimulate me intellectually. When I'm in Africa, when I'm in Malawi, I can't read books like that. I can't engage with books like that. And I think the way I often explain it is that I think when I'm there, I'm so busy absorbing. I'm so busy sort of in many ways, I'm so busy living the life that I think many of us are meant to live, that it's then when I come back and I have sort of this reverse culture shock where I'm sort of sucked into to the culture that I know best, definitely. But there's a I think what I do when I get back home is that then I get in this reflection mode. So I'm reflecting on all of the things that I absorbed and I learned when I was there in Malawi. And so I think a lot of my songs come from that place of reflecting on those experiences and those experiences as compared to, say, our own sort of dominant culture here in the U.S. And
you said that "No It Don't" is a song that took you the longest to write. Can you tell us a little bit about specifically about how songs come to you, how you actually turn them from ideas into music?
Yeah, like the actual mechanics of it.
Yeah.
I'm sort of curious. I'm always curious about how many songs at a time someone might be writing,
Okay.
or how long it'll take them. Like what kind of schedule.
Yeah,
that
that's
works
always
out.
Mostly because Kurt suffers through this chronically.
Any songwriter does. I know we got songwriters in the audience.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, and it's such a hard question for me, and I imagine other songwriters to answer too, because for me it's different with every song. Though I do recognize certain trends, definitely. I will usually I have a lyric before I have anything else. Again, but that's not always true. I don't know. It's often going about my day and some maybe a melody sort of sticks in my head, and then I sort of have this. It's usually a line. It's usually no more than a line that somehow sticks in my head, and I just can't get it out, and I think it's catchy, or I think it's clever, or what have you, and then I'll sort of run with that. In fact, I even have this problem as I write a song, of sort of, I loved that first line, and I'm not able to come up with anything quite as good as that,
Oh yeah.
And so that's always a challenge. But I don't know. It's such a hard question to answer because, again, I think every single song has been sort of this different process.
Right, yeah.
And I definitely would say that I very rarely actually sit down to write a song, like sort of with
with
and
the
maybe,
intent of writing a song.
maybe that's true of most songwriters. I don't know, but it's like something that comes to me at random times, and
Likely at the worst possible time.
exactly, yeah.
How many of your own songs do you have in terms of your total catalog that you've written, and how many of them do you tend to have in your fingers at any one time?
Well, I actually don't know how many songs I've written over time. There are quite a few. I mean, I would say songs that I'm not completely embarrassed to play for other people.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a
Would
whole
be-
third category.
Yeah,
No, I
would be
yeah.
would be maybe 20 to 25.
Yeah.
And then even out of those 20 to 25, there'd be like maybe 10 that I'd sort of show to anybody that asked. Yeah. So.
Let's do another one. One of the ones that you're okay,
Yeah.
not embarrassed to play.
Of the few, here we go. Sweet chariot, swing down low and follow me to the fire. And if you've come to save my soul, then follow me to the fire. And I'll meet you in the flames. You'll see my place. gather round God's children and follow me to the fire. Heed the words of Jesus and follow me to the fire, and I'll meet you in the flames. You'll see my pleasure. You'll know my pain. La 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 la, and I'll meet you in the flames. You'll see my pleasure. You'll know my pain. When comes the day all is revealed, reveal my treasure and heal my shame. La 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 la. La 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 la.
Pleasure, treasure, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
You graduated with a degree in
Music.
music.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're
And
definitely an arts guy.
yeah, and actually, in fact, it's funny because it's not really that arty. It's music with sort of an option in music industry. So
Oh, wow.
So
Where
really-
is this from?
this was in California, in Chico,
Okay. Uh-huh.
CSU Chico.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was actually there were sort of the core, music theory type classes, but it was a lot of it was business. It was sort of music. They took a lot of music classes, a lot of business classes, put them together, and then put in a few like music industry classes as well.
And more music schools need to do that. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and so that was my major. I've
So that was your major. So
done nothing with it.
Well, and that's sort of. I mean, besides having a guitar in the room with you right
Yeah,
now, so you pick up and you visit Africa,
Mm-hmm.
and you decide with this vaunted new music industry degree, I think I'll start a nonprofit.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, it was definitely not just me. It was my wife and I both coming to this decision. It was definitely a long process. We went to Africa. It was actually I had one year of school left, and she was just graduating, and we had the summer available to us because she was graduating and she had a job in the university that she was going to have to give up because she was no longer going to be a student. So her job was ending. My job was ending as well, and so we just had this summer available to us, and we decided we wanted to do something interesting with it and something meaningful with it. And we both happened to be reading at the time independently about Southern Africa and specifically what HIV was doing in Southern Africa. And so we thought, wouldn't it be neat if we could go to Africa for the summer and do some volunteer work. And so we went with this organization based out of New York called Operation Crossroads Africa, and they sent us to work with a small local NGO, non-governmental organization in Malawi, Africa. And so that was our summer in 2003, and we fell in love with the place, with the people. The organization turned out to be a sham organization. It just sort of, everything sort of fell apart. Our partnership and work with this organization sort of fell apart as we were there.
As a result of what? Finances?
Well,
or it just had no backbone to it in the first place?
Well, there was some corruption involved. There was a guy. It's you know, I mean, it's still in existence, the actual organization. So, but our involvement with it sort of ceased. I would say somewhere midway through that summer, and so there was sort of this need for us, and the group we were with, there were 9 of us altogether, Americans there. This need for us to sort of kind of find things to do, and so we met people. We spent time with people in their homes and eating with them, and again, so we'd already fallen in love with this place, and that just made that all the more sort of concrete. And so when we came out of that experience, came back to the States, we just knew we had to get back. And we didn't know what form that would take, but we knew we had to do it, and something happened, and you know. When you talk to people who've been to Africa, you'll hear sort of the term often mal d'Afrique, the African malady. It's like the bug that bites you when you get to when you've spent some time in Africa. It's like you're connected. There's no going back now. And so I think that's what happened. And over the next year, we tried to figure out how to do something, how to move our lives in that direction, that we would be connected with these people for a longer term. And so we actually applied for the Peace Corps. We did the Peace Corps application process. We were assigned to actually Gabon in Western Africa, and so all set to sort of go to Gabon. We at some point just decided that it didn't feel right. The assignment didn't feel right for us, and we couldn't really put a finger exactly on what it was. There were a number of factors. As it happened, we actually emailed the Peace Corps, said we aren't.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, we're backing out. And before that was late one night. The next morning, we got a call from them, and I said, "Oh, did you get our email?" They're like, "No, what email? We're just calling to tell you that the Gabon program's been canceled." And so, and they had some other options for us if we wanted to wait some months. But we just decided at that point, you know, Malawi, where we had been before, is where our heart was. With this, and specifically this small town of Balaka, Malawi. And so, so it was a few months.
I was reading on your website.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to dive in a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
The website that you, the nonprofit that you founded is called Bolamoyo, and that means
better life.
Better life. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Specifically talking about. You're going to have to say the name.
Bolamoyo.
I mean the city.
Balaka. Yes.
Balaka.
Right.
Okay. Specifically regarding Balaka, it says on the website that is sort of not necessarily the place you would naturally find yourself if you were traveling to Africa.
Yeah, definitely.
I think you used the word armpit.
Armpit. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
How did you find yourself falling in love with this place?
Well, I don't know, and again, and this is sort of that's the opinion that when we talk about it being the armpit of Malawi, that's the opinion of people we've talked to who've spent time in Malawi, and maybe have traveled through Balaka, but we don't actually understand it. You know, the little time we spent there in that first summer, we couldn't help but fall in love with it, and it's just again. And it's, you know, there's probably nothing so unique about Balaka that, you know, you wouldn't find in every other town in Malawi, but something happened, and again, it was just that community that sort of took us in and welcomed us, and Yeah. So, but yeah, it's the armpit because it's hot, it's muggy, it's in a valley, it's crowded. Yeah. It's not, there's not much going on there. There's not much in the way of entertainment or anything like that. So
you fall in love with this community, and
yeah.
and how do you decide to take a more active role?
Well, it's funny. It was we give a lot of credit to Bono, of all people.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Who
really?
doesn't?
I mean,
Yeah,
Bono
seriously.
I give him credit for this show.
Hey, when are we going to have him over?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the reason I say that is well, first of all, one of the books that we were reading was a book that he helped compile, or an editor. Or, I don't exactly know what his role in that was. I know he was connected to it somehow. It's called The Awake Project, and a series of essays about Southern Africa and HIV and AIDS, and so that was one of our initial inspirations was that book. But then when we turned down the Peace Corps assignment, we were actually living in Chico. The thing is that we had actually, we'd put in our notice at the place we were staying, our 30-day notice, and had to move. And we figured, you know what, there's nothing keeping us here in Chico, so let's move up to Portland. It's near family. It's a place we wanted to go for some time. So we moved up to Portland. We're here a few months, and we go to see Bono do a lecture at the Rose Quarter about what he's doing with the One campaign and all of the things he's doing, and it was sort of not so much anything that he said or any sort of anything to do with his delivery of what he said, but it was just sort of all of that stuff. We're hearing about Africa. It's all that stuff sort of coming back up for the both of us, my wife and myself. And so we at that night we went to, it was like 1:00 in the morning. We went to Denny's, the only place open, and we're sitting at Denny's and we're trying to figure out like what do we do, and that's when we said, you know what, if there's some great things going on in Balaka in Malawi, why don't we just start a nonprofit and support those great things? And
so what is the mission of Bulamoyo?
So what we seek to do is as the name implies, better life. Is we want to sort of uplift the people in that community, and not through sort of these traditional ways. A lot of nonprofits go into a place like this, and they throw a lot of money at these programs, health programs, all of these different workshops and everything. But we sort of take the arts approach, and we have a youth center. And it's an after-school program, and these kids come every afternoon, 30 to 40 kids every day, and we have music clubs, we have an art club, we have dance, we have drama, handicrafts, all of these different things, and then we also have certain things like tutoring in math and English, these things that they learn in school as well, and so. So we have the youth center, and then just recently we also we've started an adult education program specifically for women who are not able to finish their formal education when they were younger, and so it's about education in the arts, and it's sort of bettering these people's lives through knowledge, through information, through creative expression, and all of these things that and that I think. Has fairly far-reaching results.
How much time do you actually spend over there actively working in the projects each year?
Up to this point, it's probably been about 5 to 6 months out of every year, 4 to 6 months, out of each year, and it's been about
powerful,
4 years.
right?
Yeah. It's gonna lessen a little bit now. Things are moving fairly smoothly and fairly streamlined now on that end. So.
Where do people, just before we play another song, where do people find out more about Bulamoyo?
Well, right now, bulamoyo.com. So that's BOLAMOYO.com. Should probably be .org, but we lost that URL and haven't been able to get it back. So
Internet hijinks.
Yeah.
Why don't you play another song for us?
Okay. can keep your sales pitch and your fancy tailored suits. You can keep your pearly gates and your alligator boots. Just give us peace, the good Lord's peace for our souls. Oh, peace, the good Lord's peace for our souls. You can keep your gigabytes, you can keep your evening news. You can keep your pesticides, you can keep your plastic foods. Just give us peace, the good Lord's peace for our souls. Oh, peace, the good Lord's peace for our souls. You can go and bank it all, but you'll never save. You can go and wash your hands, you're still red in the face. Just give us peace, the good Lord's peace for our souls. You can have your cake now, go ahead and eat it too. But when your insides ache, you have no one there for you. Just give us peace for our souls. Peace. Just give us peace for our souls. Peace, the good Lord's peace for our souls.
Whew. That's great. Another great song. Dustin
Thank you.
Pattison. Dustin, man, thank you so much for coming to sit down with us
Yeah.
this week.
Thank
It's
you
been a
very
real
much.
treat having you here and
Likewise.
hearing about your projects and what you're doing to make the world a better place. We really appreciate it. Where can people find out more about you?
Me. Well, okay, so DustinPattison.com is my new website, one I just put up, and just a simple,
Blogging over
simple
there,
little
you've got
thing,
lots of
and-
good stuff
yeah,
going
yeah,
on
yeah,
over at
yeah.
DustinPattison.com.
It's a thing that I just sort of created, and I hope is useful. So
Excellent. All right, so
Yeah.
that's a good place to find you.
DustinPattison.com.
DustinPattison.com. You're
Yeah.
also on MySpace.
I am MySpace.com/Dustin Pattison.
Okay.
Pretty simple, yeah.
And we will certainly put links to both of those
Wonderful.
on the website.
Wonderful.
How you doing, Kurt? How you holding up?
Oh, I'm great. Yeah.
It's good music.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Really glad to have you over.
Oh, I'm so glad I could come. This is great.
A real treat.
It's a lot of fun.
You can find out more about us and our show, Acoustic Conversations. Visit us on the web at acousticconversations.com to listen to each of the interview episodes right there on the site.
And make sure to subscribe to the show in iTunes to download the free high-quality tracks from all of our recent artists.
And if you are on Facebook, make sure to join our Facebook group. You can just search for Acoustic Conversations and join up. We post direct links to all of the individual freebie songs for our Facebook friends. And we love making Facebook friends. Please, make Facebook friends with us. It's almost like real friends, only, Facebook. And, of course, you can follow us on Twitter at ACConvo. And that's it, twitter.com/ACConvo. On behalf of Kurt Siffert, great thanks to our guest, Dustin Pattison.
Thank you so much.
Many great thanks. And many thanks to your wife for watching your young son and allowing you to come over and do this with us. I'm Pete Wright. Thank you for listening to Acoustic Conversations.
Show them who's boss today.